Throughout countless stories, myths and legends, we hear about destiny choosing a single individual, one person set apart by prophecy, fate, or some extraordinary calling. It creates the impression that becoming the chosen one is a matter of luck, a cosmic roll of the dice that selects someone at random. But when you look deeper, past the surface-level storytelling and into the psychological and symbolic core of the archetype, a much more profound truth emerges. Only a few ever become the chosen one, not because destiny favors them, but because very few individuals are willing or able to walk the path that transformation demands. The role is not gifted, it is earned through challenge, self-discovery, and the courage to face realities that most people avoid. Becoming the chosen is less about being selected and far more about selecting oneself. It is not an external appointment, it is a psychological and spiritual process that reshapes a person from the inside out. It requires a level of resilience that surpasses comfort, a level of clarity that disrupts familiar illusions, and a willingness to evolve even when evolution feels like the destruction of everything familiar. The stories portray destiny as a mystical force, but the truth beneath the symbolism is that destiny only recognizes those who consistently step toward their own expansion. It is not the prophecy that makes the chosen one, it is the person who rises to meet what the prophecy represents. This is why only a small fraction of people reach this level. Most individuals, when faced with discomfort, retreat back into safety. When confronted with the cracks in their identity, they cling to the familiar. When life pushes them toward awakening, they resist, stall, or fold. Not because they are weak, but because transformation is uncomfortable. It exposes vulnerabilities, dissolves illusions, and forces a person to confront parts of themselves they would rather keep buried. Rising to the role of the chosen one means moving toward difficulty rather than away from it. It means stepping into responsibility rather than deflecting it. It means embracing truths that are heavier than the stories we tell ourselves. This leads us to the central question of this video. Why is it that only a few people ever rise to this role, while most never reach it? What separates those rare individuals who transform into the chosen one archetype from everyone else who encounters the same opportunities, the same conflicts, or the same crossroads, but never step forward? The answer lies in a unique combination of psychological strength, emotional depth, inner clarity, and unwavering willingness to evolve. Traits that do not appear by chance, but are forged through trials that many are unwilling to face. In this video, we will break down the internal challenges, the trials, and the defining traits that set this rare category of individuals apart. We will examine why so many stop at the threshold of transformation, while a select few push through it. We will explore the kind of pressure that refines identity, the kind of awareness that carries weight, and the kind of responsibility that tests character. By understanding these layers, you'll see that becoming the chosen one has nothing to do with external selection, and everything to do with internal readiness. If this topic resonates with you, if the idea of inner evolution, destiny, or stepping into a larger role aligns with something you feel inside, make sure to like the video, share it with someone who might connect with the message, and subscribe for more analyses that dive into the deeper psychology and symbolism behind powerful archetypes. The first and most defining separation between the chosen one and everyone else begins at a very specific threshold, the point where pain becomes unavoidable. This threshold is the place where most people turn back. It is the moment when the familiar identity begins to collapse, when emotional cracks widen into fractures, and when life presents an internal conflict so intense that the person must choose between evolution and retreat. Pain is the first test, not because it punishes, but because it reveals. It exposes who is willing to confront the truth of themselves and who is not. And it is within this crucible of discomfort that the rare individual who will become the chosen one takes their first step forward, while the majority step away. Pain here is not simply physical suffering, it is psychological, emotional, and existential. It is the pain of confronting one's own limitations, one's own fears, one's own unhealed wounds. It is the pain that arises when the old identity no longer fits, yet the new one has not fully formed. It is the pain of losing certainty, losing control, losing illusions that once provided comfort. Most individuals, when faced with this level of inner conflict, instinctively retreat back into what they know, even if what they know is limiting or harmful. They seek safety and familiarity, choosing comfort over growth, stability over transformation. But for the chosen one, something different happens. Instead of turning back, they step into the pain. They do not enjoy it, but they recognize something within it, a call to evolve, a signal that change is necessary. They understand, consciously or intuitively, that running from discomfort only prolongs the suffering. They sense that the only way out is through. This decision, subtle yet monumental, is what begins to narrow the field. Most people avoid their pain, but the chosen one allows pain to become a teacher. This willingness to confront discomfort is not born from arrogance or masochism. It is born from a deep inner pull toward truth. The chosen one senses that pain is not merely a sign of damage, it is a sign of transformation. Pain reveals the fractures in the old identity, the weaknesses in the old structure, the illusions in the old worldview. They understand that when something breaks inside them, it is often because it was no longer strong enough to support who they are becoming. Instead of clinging to the fragments of who they were, they let the breakage happen. They allow the collapse to clear space for growth. Most people respond to such internal collapse with denial. They resist, suppress, distract, blame, or numb themselves. They treat pain as an enemy, something to escape or silence. They tell themselves stories to avoid confronting what hurts. They cling to the old identity because stepping into the unknown feels too dangerous. This reaction is understandable. It is human. But it is also the very reason only a few ever reach the archetypal role of the chosen one. The ones who rise are the ones who surrender to the process of being remade. In stories and myths, this threshold is often symbolized as the dark night of the soul, the fall, or the breaking. But beneath the symbolism lies a universal psychological truth. Transformation begins at the point of greatest discomfort. This discomfort forces individuals to face their shadows, the parts of themselves they usually avoid. Shadows include old wounds, unresolved trauma, fear of inadequacy, fear of failure, fear of responsibility, and the masks they wear to appear strong or certain. Most people turn away from these shadows, fearing that looking too closely will destroy them. But the chosen one does the opposite. They lean in. They look without blinking. This willingness to face the shadow is rare because it requires two deep internal traits: courage and honesty. Courage not in the sense of bold external action, but courage in the intimate internal sense. The courage to sit with pain instead of numbing it. The courage to explore darkness instead of escaping it. And honesty in the sense of acknowledging one's flaws, one's fears, one's weaknesses without shame. This honesty becomes a kind of liberation. When the chosen one stops hiding from themselves, they stop hiding from their potential. The threshold of pain also tests resilience. Resilience is not endurance alone. It is the ability to remain open while hurting. It is the ability to let pain reshape rather than harden. Many people become bitter, cynical, or closed off when they encounter deep emotional conflict. They build defenses that block both pain and growth. But the chosen one remains open. Their heart expands even when it aches. They continue to feel deeply, even when the feelings are overwhelming. This emotional openness, paired with resilience, becomes the foundation for their future strength. As the chosen one journeys deeper into this painful threshold, they begin to realize that discomfort is not a sign that they are failing. It is a sign that they are shedding. They are letting go of beliefs that no longer serve them. They are releasing versions of themselves that cannot continue forward. They are dismantling internal walls that once protected them, but now confine them. This psychological shedding is not gentle. It is raw, chaotic, and vulnerable. But it is also necessary. Without shedding, there is no space for the new self to emerge. One of the most profound realizations that occurs during this stage is the recognition that pain contains information. Beneath the discomfort lies truth. Truth about one's desires, one's fears, one's boundaries, one's purpose. Pain illuminates what matters and what does not. It clarifies which paths are authentic and which are illusions. As the chosen one learns to listen to pain rather than run from it, they begin to extract meaning from their suffering. This meaning becomes the fuel for their transformation. In many ways, the threshold of pain is not a test of strength, but a test of willingness. Many people are strong, but unwilling to change. They can endure difficulties but refuse to grow. The chosen one, however, possesses the rare willingness to evolve under pressure. They allow pain to break their old identity so a stronger one can form. They accept that transformation requires loss. They embrace the idea that becoming something greater means releasing what is lesser. This is the defining difference that sets them apart. The further the chosen one moves through this painful threshold, the more they begin to sense a shift within themselves. The edges of their old identity dissolve, and something new begins to take shape. They feel a flicker of clarity, a rising sense of possibility, a growing inner strength that feels different from anything they have known. This strength does not come from avoiding pain. It comes from surviving it, absorbing it, and learning from it. They realize that the pain did not break them, it revealed them. This revelation marks the moment when they step beyond the threshold, not because the pain has disappeared, but because they are no longer afraid of it. They understand that pain no longer holds power over them. Instead, they have learned to hold power within themselves, and in doing so, they become part of the rare few who cross the divide between what is easy and what is necessary, between who they were and who they are becoming. This is why the threshold of pain narrows the field so drastically. Most people stop at the first sign of collapse. They cling to familiarity. They protect their old identity at all costs. But the chosen one steps forward, allowing the collapse to become a doorway. They understand, consciously or unconsciously, that the world inside them must change before the world outside them ever can. In the end, it is not the pain that shapes them, but their relationship with that pain. They do not endure it passively, they transform through it actively. They confront shadows, dissolve illusions, and surrender to the discomfort of becoming someone new. And it is this rare willingness to evolve under pressure that explains why only a few ever reach the path reserved for the chosen one. The second great dividing line between those who become the chosen one and those who remain unchanged is not strength, not talent, and not even resilience. It is awareness. Awareness is the weight that only a few can carry. It is the sharpened perception and intuitive clarity that emerge during awakening and refuse to be softened once they appear. Awareness is demanding. It is often heavy, often uncomfortable, and always transformative. Many people think they want truth, clarity, insight, or vision, but when those things come with consequences, the majority turn away. Only the few who are willing to see the world and themselves honestly, without distortion, without denial, move forward on the path. Heightened perception is not simply noticing more, it is seeing deeper. It is recognizing patterns, contradictions, and emotional undercurrents that others overlook. It is perceiving intentions behind actions, understanding the hidden motivations behind behavior, and reading between the lines of every situation. This kind of perception makes it impossible for the chosen one to live within the comfortable illusions that most people rely on. Once they see truth, they cannot unsee it. This inability to return to ignorance becomes both a gift and a burden. For most people, ignorance functions as a psychological cushion. They prefer predictable patterns, familiar beliefs, and comforting narratives that shield them from uncomfortable truths. They often avoid looking closely at themselves or their circumstances because doing so would require change. Awareness disrupts this. It challenges routines, expectations, and assumptions. It forces individuals to question the foundation of their identity and the direction of their life. And because most people are not ready to face that level of disruption, they choose the safety of illusion over the weight of truth. But the chosen one is different. When awareness rises, they do not push it down, they allow it. They accept it, even when it challenges everything they believed. They confront truths that contradict their old worldview. They acknowledge their flaws, weaknesses, and blind spots with honesty. They understand that awareness is not a comfortable experience, but a necessary one. Truth becomes their ally, even when it hurts. This acceptance is rare, and it is one of the central reasons only a few individuals ascend to the archetype of the chosen one. Awareness also brings responsibility. When the chosen one begins to see the world more clearly, they can no longer pretend they don't understand what is at stake. They recognize how their actions affect others. They understand the consequences of inaction. They see how small decisions ripple outward into larger outcomes. This understanding creates a moral weight, a sense of duty that cannot be ignored. While most people avoid responsibility because it restricts their freedom or challenges their comfort, the chosen one steps toward it because they feel internally compelled to act in alignment with what they see. Responsibility, however, is not glamorous. It is heavy. It requires the ability to withstand pressure, criticism, and expectation. It forces the chosen one to make choices that may be unpopular, misunderstood, or difficult. It requires them to rise above personal desire and focus on what is necessary. This level of responsibility eliminates many who would rather remain passive observers than active participants in shaping reality. Those who shy away from responsibility cannot advance to the next stage of the path. As their awareness sharpens, the chosen one begins to see through deception, both external and internal. External deception includes lies, manipulation, and false appearances presented by others. Internal deception is far more dangerous. It includes self-lies, excuses, rationalizations, ego illusions, and stories that keep one small or safe. Most people defend these internal deceptions because they protect identity, but the chosen one dismantles them. They refuse to hide behind false narratives. They confront the truth of who they are and who they have the capacity to become. Seeing through deception requires emotional strength. It often means recognizing that someone they trusted was not who they appeared to be. It may mean acknowledging that a life they built was based on comfort rather than authenticity. It may mean admitting that their greatest obstacle is not the world, but themselves. These realizations are powerful but painful, and because they demand emotional maturity, many people step back from awareness when it becomes too heavy. The chosen one does not. They stand firm, knowing that only through clarity can they move forward. Awareness also opens the chosen one to a deeper understanding of their role in the world. They begin to sense, even before they fully grasp it, that they have a place in shaping events. This understanding is not ego-driven, it is intuitive. They feel a connection to something larger than themselves, a vision, a path, a mission. They recognize that they are being prepared for responsibility, not because they are superior, but because their awareness has made them capable. This recognition can be overwhelming. The weight of purpose is not light, and the chosen one feels it long before they step fully into that role. This burden of awareness often creates a sense of isolation. While others continue to operate from limited perspectives or surface-level interpretations, the chosen one sees the deeper layers beneath. They notice the emotional wounds others ignore. They detect future consequences of actions that seem insignificant to everyone else. They observe hypocrisy, injustice, and cruelty with heightened sensitivity. This level of awareness can make them feel disconnected from those who do not see what they see. But instead of closing off or diminishing their perception to fit in, they adapt. They learn how to navigate the world without losing clarity. Awareness also changes how the chosen one views themselves. They develop a more honest relationship with their strengths and limitations. They recognize their potential without inflating their ego. They acknowledge their imperfections without sinking into shame. This balance creates a stable sense of self that cannot be easily shaken. They no longer depend on external validation. They no longer fear failure the way they once did. Awareness gives them both humility and confidence, two traits that are essential for leadership. But perhaps the most challenging aspect of heightened awareness is the emotional complexity it introduces. The chosen one feels more deeply. They sense the suffering of others more acutely. They become more attuned to injustice, imbalance, and the emotional undercurrents in their environment. This sensitivity requires emotional resilience. Without it, awareness becomes overwhelming. Many people collapse under this emotional weight because it requires constant self-regulation. The chosen one, however, learns to carry it. They allow themselves to feel deeply without losing their center. Over time, Awareness becomes their strength rather than their burden. It sharpens their intuition, refines their decisions, and enhances their ability to navigate complexity. It helps them anticipate challenges, detect opportunities, and understand people at levels most cannot. It allows them to make choices rooted not in impulse, but in insight. This insight becomes a form of inner leadership that prepares them for the responsibilities ahead. However, it is critical to understand that this burden of awareness is one of the primary filters on the path. Many people stop here. They get close to awakening, but resist the full weight of clarity. They prefer the safety of denial or the simplicity of unexamined beliefs. They turn away from truth when it becomes inconvenient, painful, or disruptive. This happens not because they are inadequate, but because awareness demands a level of inner strength that not everyone is ready to develop. Only the few who embrace awareness, even when it is heavy, even when it is unsettling, even when it demands transformation, continue forward. These individuals accept truths that others deny. They face consequences that others avoid. They step into responsibility that others resist. And it is this willingness to live with depth, clarity, and honesty that separates the chosen ones from the many who remain unchanged. Awareness is the silent force that shapes destiny. It is the lens through which the chosen one begins to see their mission. It is the weight that tests their resilience. It is the clarity that prepares them for the final stage of awakening, where purpose becomes action and potential becomes embodiment. And as we move into the next stage, the truth becomes undeniable. Only those who can carry the burden of awareness are capable of rising into the rare identity of the chosen one. The final filter that separates the few who become the chosen one from the many who do not is responsibility. Not the simple kind of responsibility that people speak about casually, but the profound, heavy, morally demanding responsibility that comes with power, purpose, and potential. This is the ultimate threshold, the moment when awakening transforms into embodiment. It is where the individual stops merely sensing their destiny and begins carrying it. Many people desire power, recognition, influence, or significance, but very few are willing to bear the weight that comes with those things. And fewer still are willing to do so with integrity, discipline, and intention. That is why the path narrows sharply here. Responsibility is the final test that requires moral courage, not destiny, to pass. Responsibility begins the moment the chosen one realizes their choices affect more than themselves. It is an awareness that every action has consequences that extend outward, touching lives, shaping outcomes, and influencing the world around them. Most people avoid this awareness because it restricts impulsivity and demands accountability, but the chosen one steps into it willingly. They understand that power is not about what they can do, it is about what they must do. This distinction becomes the defining characteristic that sets them apart. Carrying responsibility requires discipline. Discipline is the ability to act with consistency even when motivation fades, even when fear rises, even when the path becomes uncertain. Those who lack discipline crumble under pressure or return to easier patterns. But the chosen one sustains effort through difficulty. They do what needs to be done, not because it is pleasant or simple, but because it is required. This level of discipline demands an internal strength that does not rely on external validation. They hold themselves to a standard that others may not understand. Integrity follows discipline closely. Integrity means using power without corruption. It means respecting the weight of ability and refusing to abuse it. Many fall at this point because power tempts the ego. It whispers promises of superiority, control, and entitlement. It tempts individuals to put themselves above others, to take shortcuts, to manipulate outcomes for personal gain. But the chosen one resists this temptation. Their strength is tempered by purpose. Their decisions reflect values rather than impulses. They understand that true power requires moral restraint, not indulgence. The chosen one demonstrates responsibility by acting with intention. Intention gives direction to power. It ensures that actions align with purpose rather than emotion. Without intention, power becomes chaotic, destructive, or misused. But with intention, power becomes precise and meaningful. The chosen one thinks before acting, evaluates consequences, and chooses paths that uphold their mission rather than gratify their desires. This kind of intentional behavior requires mental clarity, emotional maturity, and constant self-awareness, qualities that are rare, which is why responsibility filters out so many. One of the greatest markers of responsibility is the willingness to lead when no one is watching. Leadership is often associated with visibility and recognition, but the truest form of leadership emerges in private moments. It is the choice to uphold values even when no external reward is present. It is the decision to act ethically when no one will ever know. It is the inner commitment to do the right thing, not for praise, but because it aligns with who they are becoming. Many people change their behavior when they are unobserved, relaxing standards or cutting corners, but the chosen one remains consistent. Their leadership is internal, not performative. They also make decisions when it is difficult. Decision-making under pressure separates those who crave power from those who can wield it. When stakes are high, most people freeze, procrastinate, or react impulsively. But the chosen one steps forward. They evaluate the situation, hold themselves steady, and choose with clarity, even when the choices feel painful or uncertain. They do not hide from responsibility. They accept the burden of deciding. They understand that avoiding decisions is itself a decision, and one with consequences. Their ability to choose under pressure demonstrates not only strength, but maturity. Sacrifice is another defining component of responsibility. Becoming the chosen one means giving up comfort, familiarity, and sometimes personal desires for the sake of a larger purpose. Sacrifice is not romantic, it is not glamorous. It is often exhausting, lonely, or painful. Most people retreat when faced with sacrifices that require sustained effort or emotional cost. But the chosen one accepts that sacrifice is part of their path. They know that growth demands letting go. They understand that the person they must become cannot coexist with the comfort of who they once were. The willingness to sacrifice also reveals priorities. It shows that the chosen one values purpose over convenience, integrity over ease, and truth over comfort. These priorities make them capable of carrying power without being consumed by it. Without sacrifice, power becomes self-serving. With sacrifice, power becomes service. This distinction defines leadership and protects the chosen one from falling into ego-driven patterns that derail many who begin the path but cannot finish it. Responsibility forces the chosen one to rise beyond instinct. Instinct is natural, but it is reactive. It focuses on self-preservation, comfort, and immediate gratification. Responsibility requires transcending instinct by choosing what is necessary rather than what feels good. This shift marks the psychological maturation of the chosen one. They move from impulse to intention, from reaction to strategy, from survival to purpose. This transition is demanding because instincts are powerful. They are rooted in fear, in old wounds, in emotional memory. Rising above instinct requires inner mastery. Responsibility also requires rising beyond comfort. Comfort feels safe, but it restricts growth. Most people remain within the boundaries of what is familiar because discomfort triggers resistance. But the chosen one learns to live at the edge of their capacity. They do not settle into comfort zones because they know comfort dulls clarity and weakens resolve. They challenge themselves continuously, understanding that evolution requires constant adjustment. This ability to tolerate discomfort sets them apart from those who choose stagnation over expansion. Finally, responsibility requires rising beyond fear. Fear is universal, but how one responds to fear determines their path. Most people let fear dictate their boundaries, decisions, and identity. They avoid risks, avoid truth, avoid responsibility. Fear convinces them to stay small. But the chosen one confronts fear directly. They acknowledge it, study it, and move through it. They do not wait for fear to disappear. They act despite it. This courage is not dramatic. It is quiet, steady, and deliberate. It is the courage to keep going even when the outcome is unknown. When all of these traits, discipline, integrity, intention, leadership, sacrifice, and courage, combine, responsibility becomes not just an external role, but an internal identity. The chosen one becomes someone who can carry weight without collapsing, someone who can navigate complexity without losing clarity, someone who can use power without being corrupted by it. Responsibility becomes the crucible that reveals their true character. It becomes evident then that destiny alone cannot create the chosen one. Many may be called, but few answer, not because they lack potential, but because they lack willingness. The ones who reach this final stage do so because they choose responsibility over ease, growth over comfort, and courage over fear. They embody the rare combination of strength, insight, and discipline required to carry the weight of power without faltering. In the end, it is moral courage, not mythology, that truly creates the chosen one. They become who they are not because the world selects them, but because they select themselves every time they choose responsibility over avoidance, clarity over illusion, and purpose over escape. And that is why only a few ever reach this stage. Responsibility is the final filter, the ultimate test, and the threshold that only the rarest individuals will ever cross. As we reach the end of this exploration, one truth stands out above all the symbolism, myths, and legendary narratives surrounding the chosen one archetype. Only a few become the chosen one, not because they are singled out by fate, but because they make choices that most people never dare to make. They choose themselves. They choose a path that demands strength, honesty, and responsibility. They choose growth even when it hurts. They choose truth even when it disrupts everything familiar. They choose responsibility even when it weighs heavily on their shoulders. These choices set them apart long before destiny ever does. It is easy to imagine the chosen one as someone born extraordinary, someone destined from the start to rise above the rest. But the deeper reality we've uncovered shows that the rarity of the chosen one has less to do with divine selection and more to do with psychological willingness. The few who rise are those who confront pain rather than hide from it. They walk into the collapse of their old identity with courage. They allow discomfort to refine them instead of break them. They see pain as the threshold of transformation rather than a barrier to avoid. This alone eliminates the majority, because confronting one's internal wounds requires vulnerability that most people run from. But pain is only the beginning. The chosen one continues forward by embracing awareness. Awareness that is sharp, heavy, and sometimes burdensome. Awareness demands honesty. It strips away illusions and reveals truths that are not always flattering or convenient. It requires the ability to see the world clearly, even when clarity comes with consequences. Most people prefer the comfort of denial or the predictability of old patterns, but the chosen one accepts what they see. They allow truth to guide them, even when it disrupts their life. They are willing to live with the weight of insight, and that weight becomes the foundation of their growth. This ability to handle deeper awareness is another rare trait, narrowing the field even further. Yet awareness alone is not enough. The defining filter, the final separation, comes through responsibility. Becoming the chosen one means recognizing that power and purpose come with obligations that cannot be avoided. It means acting with discipline when it would be easier to drift. It means carrying integrity through moments when no one is watching. It means leading with intention rather than ego. Responsibility requires sacrifices, decisions, and moral courage that few are willing to embrace. It tests character in the places where instinct, fear, and comfort try their hardest to pull a person backwards. And only those who continue moving forward through these tests prove themselves capable of rising to the role that the archetype represents. All of this reveals that the chosen one is not defined by destiny, but by decision. They rise because they choose growth over comfort, truth over illusion, discipline over impulse, and responsibility over ease. They are exceptional not because they were selected, but because they selected themselves every time they faced a crossroads. They said yes to the difficult path again and again. This is what makes the archetype rare. Most people encounter these same crossroads but decline the invitation to evolve. Yet at the same time, the message behind this archetype is not exclusive. Anyone can rise toward this path. Anyone can step into their strongest, most aligned version if they are willing to accept the same demands. Anyone who confronts their pain rather than fleeing it, embraces awareness rather than denying it, and carries responsibility with courage rather than avoiding it, begins to walk the same path the chosen one walks. The rarity comes from willingness, not from destiny. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like the video, share it with someone who needs this message, and subscribe for more in-depth content exploring character evolution, psychology, and the deeper meaning behind powerful archetypes.